It probably started as a stalker, an erotomanic stalker. There's a psychopathology to the evolution of these types of stalkers, and the fact that he's contacting you indicates that he believes you owe him something. This model frequently concludes itself with one of two possibilities. Either the stalker will kill himself, or he'll kill the object of his affection.
Like, not to be that person, but like, I watched a lot of Criminal Minds growing up, and I'm not fully caught up on all the seasons, but I watched it a lot.
The creature, what is it? It's a being so terrifying it's impossible to even describe. It is the Nameless One.
Disgusting.
Hello there, welcome and welcome back to my channel. My name is Zuhari, and I want to thank you all so much for sharing my content, liking, commenting, subscribing. All of it has been helping my channel grow exponentially very fast. It's very exciting to see, and I truthfully could not have done it alone. So thank you so much for your support. Today, I am going to be continuing on in the theme of Criminal Minds, and I will be SSA Emily Prentice. And I am going to be breaking down why the outline of how the stalking relationship is portrayed is inconsistent with the psychopathology of stalking, particularly how stalking relationships end. Before I get into it, I want us to watch a video of the Nameless One explaining just how the stalking ended. I want to talk about this before you see it. I want you to hear the dialogue before you hear it again. So she says that she met some woman in some body positivity sphere, and through her interaction with this woman, she was able to piece together from information she heard from the stalker in 2014. Between that information and what she heard from the woman who she met in the body positivity sphere, the Nameless One was able to garner that that woman's mother's abuser is her stalker's half brother. And somehow this information prompted this woman who she met in the body positivity sphere to pay for a background check on the Nameless One's stalker. Okay.
Like, how did that officially stop with him?
Yeah, I eventually basically went to him and said, hey, because it's a long story. Let me try to summarize it. Me and this girl named Erica were a part of the same body positivity sphere. Her mom dated his half-brother. He was so abusive, his half-brother, my stalker's half-brother, that she's like permanently disabled and disfigured. I'll leave it at that. It's not my story to tell. But she is permanently like unable to work and has a lot of health complications because of what he did to her. They shared the same dad. She paid for a background check because we kind of, this all came together with me because I had one conversation with him in 2014 and then a conversation with her in like 2021. And I was able to piece this all together, and we figured that out and was like, what the fuck? This is the most random mind fuck. And then she paid for his background check, and I was able to get his address. I was able to get all this information about him. And then and I got it because of her. So I sent him this long message on this fake Facebook profile. This fake Facebook profile is the main one he showed me over TeamViewer. I think it was like Liam something. And he hadn't changed it. Like all the posts and dates and all of that were all still from 2013, 2014. Because he had sat there on TeamViewer and like explained to me why this post was like this to help make it seem more real, blah, blah, blah.
I've already debunked the existence of this Facebook page in another video, so just know that going forward, this Facebook page doesn't exist.
So I messaged that, and I was just basically like, hey, I know this is full name. I know you're with blah, blah, blah. I know you're at this address. And I was like, if you don't leave me the fuck alone, I'm going to ruin your life. And hey, if I'm crazy and I'm wrong and this is really some white dude named Liam, go ahead and message me proof and I'll apologize. But if you don't, I'm going to assume I'm right. He left me on red, never responded. And it's been crickets ever since.
And how long ago was that? In 21, you said?
Yeah.
So, if we're undercover, maybe we should, act like a couple.
Are you still working this tired sexual tension angle?
I don't know, you're the fortune teller, you tell me.
You want to know what profiling is, really?
Why do I have a feeling I'm gonna hear no matter what I say?
It's just noticing behavior.
I'm about to hear about mine. Is that the deal?
Okay. When we first met, when your partner was sarcastic and said, yes, ma'am, you instinctively reached for your detective shield, as if you were protecting it. That tells me you don't like him disrespecting the chain of command. But you're also loyal, so you didn't say something to him. I'd say you were military. Probably an officer. Praise in public, censure in private, right? You're right-handed, but you have two different color pen marks on your left hand. I'd guess you have a toddler at home, just learning how to draw. You don't wear a ring, and you were quick to flirt with me. So you're happy to let people think you are a player. But if I took you up on it, you would run for the hills, because you love your wife, and you would never actually cheat on her.
Wow. You might just solve this case yet.
Hello, my name is Emily Prentice with the FBI. I work in the BAU, and today I'm going to be giving you a criminological and psychoanalytical analysis of the end of the stalking relationship between the Nameless One and her alleged stalker. Before I get into my in-depth analysis, I have to say that the story follows a very familiar outline, and that is the outline of the romance novel. See, the romance novel needs to take care of real life problems like your mortgage, your tires, the electricity, insurance, payments. You can't have any of these things clouding the story. So your protagonist is somehow endlessly rich, even though he's in his late 20s to early 30s. Sure, he's some sort of business mogul. Hell, he could even be self-made, an orphan, because the trauma really does get him going. This is a convenient plot device so that the fantasy of the writer can go wherever they want. Well, this stalker carries a similar wealth, except instead of money, it is incredible amounts of cruelty in any and every which way the Nameless wants to achieve the primary objective, which upon reviewing the transcript is simply attention, praise, admiration. The story we are given is of somebody who has triumphed over a difficult childhood with no support, somebody who has undergone endless bullying, online smear campaigns, gang stalking, and a stalker who violated her repeatedly, both online and offline. A stalker she then manipulated into falling in love with her. See, the pathology of a stalker at its heart is a person who has completely dehumanized someone. This person is not an individual with their own life. They are a plot device integral to the life of the stalker. Herein lies their safety, their hope, their desire, their obsession. Their entire life is consumed by this person that they just can't let go of. The reason we study things like stalking so that we can understand this behavior and how to mitigate it. Perhaps there are things we can do in childhood that we are currently not doing. When we study things like attachment patterns, we see what we need to give children in order for them to grow up to be well-adjusted and functional adults. A stalker is not a well-adjusted, functional adult. A stalker is not somebody who is analytical. A stalker is not somebody who is pragmatic, somebody who is driven by an intellectual need. The stalker is self-destructive in their pursuit because it's taken over them. The account my colleagues and I have been breaking down is the account of the pathology of a stalker that does not exist. Much like a multi-billionaire in a romance novel, a stalker with these behavioral patterns is completely inconsistent with most of what we have come to know about what drives a stalker. Now, if you've ever seen but one stalking documentary, you will see that the more the subject tries to retreat, the more the stalker starts to become engulfed by their need to satisfy this restlessness that is caused by the subject of their psychological devotion departing from them. And when the person gives them any form of attention, it is reinforcing this relationship. A rare but significant amount of stalking cases end in homicide. Stalkers are not rational. Stalkers are not unintentional. And they are most certainly not respectful of boundaries. Now, what we often see when a subject directly communicates with the stalker to say that they do not want anything to do with them. This does not dissuade them. A lot of stalking victims go out of their way to try to protect themselves. They may even get things such as restraining and protection orders, but oftentimes stalkers are not repelled by these things. If anything, it fuels them more. We study human behavior because at some point we figured out that it was not spontaneous, that it was rather predictable, that our shared biology, something about our nature and our nurture, when observed, can establish that when somebody claims behavioral deviance, like the Stalker, the Nameless One gives us, well, it is easy for anybody to pick up. Not even just people who have formal training in psychology or criminology, but anybody who has ever really been a victim of stalking knows the terror you feel. Anybody who has ever actually been stalked knows when they hear somebody romanticize something that can break somebody's life. I don't like people like the Nameless One. I don't enjoy liars, and in my line of work, I meet a lot of them, but I do enjoy breaking down exactly why they are as dumb as they are, and today I will do that for you. So I will now pivot into my enhanced criminological and psychoanalytical analysis of the Nameless One's stalker. Hey there, are you enjoying this video? I know I'm enjoying making it. If you are enjoying it, please consider donating to my PayPal. I am trying to raise $1,000 so that I can pay my fees and get my degree. So if that's something you can do, please consider doing that. If you can't, it's okay, because your like, comment, subscribe, everything, it's engagement, it's watch time hours, and it's sending me so close to being able to say, hey, this is an actual career, so thank you. Either way, you are pushing my future in a positive direction. Thank you so much. Let's get into it again. When cross-examined against empirical data, the narrative directly contradicts known behavioral patterns, motivations, and underlying psychology of real-world perpetrators. Now, I want to get into the fragmented timeline and reinforcement paradox.
This all came together with me because I had one conversation with him in 2014 and then a conversation with her in like 2021. And I was able to piece this all together, and we figured that out and was like, what the fuck? This is the most random mind fuck. But see, the thing with me was I got him to trust me. That was one of the reasons why I think I spared Stockholm a little bit, is I manipulated him into falling in love with me. Once I realized, as much as a narcissist sociopath can, I manipulated him into trusting me. Like, I got his full legal name at one point, and I got as much information about him as I could.
The verbatim quote. And because I had one conversation with him in 2014 and then a conversation with her in like 2021, and I was able to piece this all together, and we figured that out and was like, this is the most random mindfuck. Next quote. But see, the thing with me was I got him to trust me. That was one of the reasons why I think I Stockholm a little bit, is I manipulated him into falling in love with me. Once I realized, as much as a narcissist sociopath can, I manipulated him into trusting me. Like, I got his full legal name at one point, and I got as much information about him as I could. Okay, so let's get into our clinical analysis. The Nameless One's account relies on a highly disjointed timeline and a counterproductive strategy of simulated emotional engagement, creating an analytical framework that contains major clinical contradictions. Interruption of the behavioral loop. Behavioral theory dictates that stalking actions repeat and escalate due to a strict matrix of interacting antecedents, preceding circumstances. A 7-year gap built upon a single initial interaction completely lacks the ongoing behavioral loops and functional maintenance required to sustain this pathology. Intrusive pursuit is sustained because engaging in stalking satisfies an internal need, such as making the stalker feel less lonely or less uncomfortable, providing feelings of power and control, or gaining attention. A dormant multi-year gap provides no active reinforcements or rewards, rendering the stalker's sudden, invisible maintenance highly anomalous and deviating from standard intrusive patterns. Stalking, by definition, entails chronic, repeated, and unwanted intrusive behaviors over time rather than lengthy, unprompted disappearances. Actively engaging with a perpetrator and simulating an emotional bond provides direct positive reinforcement, such as attention and validation, and negative reinforcement, alleviating the stalker's internal discomfort. The reality of reinforcement. Actively engaging with a perpetrator and simulating an emotional bond provides direct positive reinforcement, such as attention and validation, and negative reinforcement, alleviating the stalker's internal discomfort. Behavioral framework indicates that by actively providing these rewarding consequences, the target would be realistically fueling, accelerating, and entrenching the stalking pattern rather than ending it. Furthermore, clinical research shows that the underlying attachment dysfunction driving a stalker is actually reinforced in the face of continuous rejection. Anyone who has actually been stalked knows this. Meaning her simulated reciprocation would heavily feed this pathology, deepening the fixation. Feeding into a stalker's delusions by pretending to fulfill his relational desires directly satisfies his relational goal pursuit. Instead of neutralizing him, this validation solidifies the target as the central, externally contingent focal point of the stalker's life, escalating the physical and psychological danger rather than lowering his guard. The Nameless One treats the stalker as a calculating mastermind operating with structured defenses that can be out-tricked, ignoring the reality that stalking perpetration is primarily driven by deep psychological distress and minor psychopathology rather than severe psychiatric conditions such as schizophrenia. Stalkers continuously utilize intense cognitive rationalizations to legitimize their intrusive pursuit and misconstrue the target's responses. That is something that is very frustrating about trying to evade a stalker, is that nothing you say will land on their ears as what it is you mean. Leave me alone means pursue me even more to them. Empirical data shows that a true stalker would weaponize her compliance as absolute proof that their terrifying pursuit was justified and desired rather than lowering his guard. Now let's talk about the becoming boring strategy.
And then I made him care about me, and then I became incredibly boring. And that's how I got a few years of reprieve before everything blew up. It had gotten to the point where I had made myself boring enough that he kind of left me alone for the most part, but he would just like randomly poke and prod.
The verbatim quote. And then I made him care about me, and then I became incredibly boring. Problem. Maximum boring was reached a long time ago. Anybody who needs to make up a lie this elaborate has to be the most boring individual to ever exist. You must have zero real life experience or nothing to be proud of if all you can do is make up such an elaborate and stupid story. More boring. And then I made him care about me, and then I became incredibly boring. And that's how I got a few years of reprieve before everything blew up. Next quote. It had gotten to the point where I made myself boring enough that he kind of left me alone for the most part. But he would just like randomly poke and prod me. The idea that you could make yourself boring to a stalker is a very interesting one, considering the fact that stalkers do not have a realistic view of the person that they are stalking. They have an idealistic view of that person. You cannot bore them because they are in love with a figment of their own imagination. But let's go into the clinical analysis. The Nameless One asserts that after manipulating the stalker into trusting her, she simply became incredibly boring, which successfully granted her a multi-year peaceful reprieve before the dynamic escalated again. This passive fading away dynamic fundamentally clashes with the baseline psychology, attachment models, and emotional processing of stalking perpetrators. Empirical research using the revised experiences in close relationships scale indicates that stalking perpetrators score significantly higher on scales of insecure, anxious attachment and lower on scales of insecure, avoidant attachment. This anxious attachment style operates via a model of hyperactivation, clinically defined as increasing and frenzied efforts to reconnect with the object of pursuit, regardless of any opposition or negative reactions. Instead of losing interest when a target becomes unresponsive or boring, an anxiously attached individual typically becomes clingy, demanding, and emotionally volatile. Psychological models demonstrate that the dysfunctional attachment driving a stalker is structurally reinforced when encountering distance. A target withdrawing, pulling away, or becoming emotionally distant acts as a catalyst for behavior acceleration and a desperate attempt to preserve the bond, not a pause button. Rumination is sustained focus and repetition of negative thoughts and emotions, which can worsen or help maintain conditions like anxiety and depression. It can feel like being stuck replaying the same negative theme and trying to solve a problem without actually getting closure. I'm sure a lot of you just felt like, ooh, that's me. According to relational goal pursuit theory, when a stalker's relational goal is frustrated by a target becoming distant or unavailable, it triggers severe cognitive and affective distress, which severely increases obsessive rumination. The continuous rumination results in an intense negative emotional state described as emotional flooding, such as anger, jealousy, and shame. Because a stalker's sense of worth is externally dependent on the target's attention, the perceived threat of losing that connection triggers intense negative arousal. This psychological state drives the perpetrator to enact maladaptive, antisocial coping strategies and damaging attempts to force contact or punish the target, making a multi-year peaceful reprieve highly anomalous. Now let's get to the silent relenting versus the pathology of power, control, and retaliation.
So I sent him this long message on this fake Facebook profile. This fake Facebook profile is the main one he showed me over TeamViewer. I think it was like Liam something. And he hadn't changed it. Like all the posts and dates and all of that were all still from 2013, 2014. Because he had sat there on TeamViewer and like explained to me why this post was like this to help make it seem more real, blah, blah, blah. So I messaged that and I was just basically like, hey, I know this is full name. I know you're with blah, blah, blah. I know you're at this address. And I was like, if you don't leave me the fuck alone, I'm going to ruin your life. And hey, if I'm crazy and I'm wrong and this is really some white dude named Liam, go ahead and message me proof and I'll apologize. But if you don't, I'm going to assume I'm right. He left me on red, never responded. And it's been crickets ever since.
The verbatim quote. So I sent him this long message on this fake Facebook profile. This fake Facebook profile is the main one he showed me over TeamViewer. I think it was Liam something. So I messaged that and I was just basically like, hey, I know this is full name. I know you're with blah, blah, blah. I know you're at this address. And I was like, if you don't leave me alone, I'm going to ruin your life. And hey, if I'm crazy and I'm wrong, and this is really some random white guy named Liam, go ahead and message me proof and I'll apologize. But if you don't, I'm going to assume I'm right. He left me on red and never responded, and it's been crickets ever since. Okay, so let's break down the claim and our clinical analysis. The narrative regarding how the stalking relationship permanently ended presents the most significant red flag to a clinical skeptic, such as yourself and I. The Nameless One states that she delivered a harsh ultimatum to a fake profile via a Facebook message using the stalker's full name, which resulted in immediate, permanent compliance. This clean, submissive, and permanent resolution completely opposes the psychological profile of a real-world perpetrator and the established volatility of stalking.
When the stalker feels as if they've been in some way betrayed by their love object, this often leads to violence against the target.
In the case of John Robert Bardo, when actress Rebecca Schaefer took a role where she had to have a sexual relationship with another character, it was enough to force him to snap and seek her out to kill her.
See, stalkers have an absolute need for control. Stalking behavior is strongly predicted by intense feelings of anger and jealousy alongside an absolute need for control. Social learning and coercive control frameworks place heavy emphasis on stalking as an expression of power, dominance, and behavioral monitoring. A hyper-activated individual seeking dominance over a target's life does not quietly give up or abandon their obsession simply because their boundaries were forcefully enacted. A target issuing a direct threat that strips away that control would cause a real stalker to escalate defensively to reassert dominance, rather than leaving the message unread. Anger-related pathology. Criminological data shows that a history of anger-related diagnoses or treatment is positively and significantly associated with stalking perpetrations, acting as a highly powerful predictor in multivariate analysis. Confronting an unstable, anger-prone perpetrator with a hostile ultimatum, I'm going to ruin your life, directly challenges their fragile ego, triggering intense emotional volatility rather than submission. Let's talk about the psychological shift to retaliation. When a stalker faces a direct threat from the target, their psychological trajectory regularly shifts from standard pursuit to active retaliation.
Maggie, don't hurt her. You don't need to hurt her.
You don't know anything. I would never do anything to hurt you. No. I created you. No, you didn't. Yes, I did. I know I did. God, you stupid, ungrateful. God, I can't believe that I loved you.
Playing a high-stakes game of emotional chicken guarantees maximum goal frustration. Empirical data shows that relational threats cause stalkers to actively punish the individual who is perceived as the source of the threat. The moment the stalker realizes he has been deceived and his control is threatened, he almost inevitably reacts to legal or personal exposure with defensive escalation or retaliatory aggression, not silent compliance. Because stalkers consistently utilize intense cognitive rationalizations to legitimize their pursuit behavior, an aggressive text from the target is typically weaponized by the stalker's internal narrative as an excuse to continue contact, intensify harassment, or exact revenge, rather than serving as an immediate deterrent. To conclude my report, in clinical and criminological realities, stalkers do not follow a convenient ghosting protocol when they are ignored, manipulated, or threatened. The Nameless One's description of a stalker who quietly drifted away because she was boring, even though she was always boring, remained dormant across a fragmented multi-year timeline, and then permanently vanished the moment she threatened to ruin his life, stands in stark contrast to a forensic psychological profile defined by volatile hyperactivation and an absolute need for power and control, and an established history of anger-driven behavioral maintenance. It is my expert opinion that this stalker is just a fabrication of the Nameless One's imagination, made up to get as much attention and sympathy points as possible, to be seen as somebody who overcame nothing because she made it all up. Hey guys, it's your girl Zuhari, and I'm back. I had so much fun with this video. I love Emily. I absolutely love Emily Princess. It goes Dr. Reed, Emily. But she's high up there. So I had so much fun. I have fun because you guys are having fun watching it, and that's pretty awesome. So I will catch you guys in the next video. And please, if you can donate to my PayPal, any amount will help me to be able to pay for my fees so that I can graduate and have actual credentials, as opposed to just playing people who have credentials in TV shows. Okay, guys. Bye-bye.
If you don't leave me the fuck alone, I'm going to ruin your life.